Tuesday, the 21st of February. This is your Frontier of Bear with me, Bosin Alpha. Let's take it all straight to our market street. As you may have known, the stock market in Mauritius was closed yesterday because of the cyclone bearing down on the Indian Ocean island. So flights were cancelled. The Mauritius Stock Exchange was closed. A lot of businesses were under wrap until the cyclone. The cyclone is said to be moving towards Madagascar. Southern Africa is going to be impacted by the cyclone. So the markets, they are closed. So you can see that yesterday. The Nigerian market came roaring on Monday, 0.78% after taking a dive of 1.23% on Friday. Investors came back with a very strong appetite on Airtel Africa and a couple of other listed stocks on the Nigerian exchange. So that was a very strong trading day. The Nigerian market added about 230 billion naira for the first day of the new week, which takes everyone down to Saturday for that hotly contested presidential and parliamentary elections. Keep that in mind. The BRVM came down yesterday by 0.37 to start the week, slightly below the 205 reading for the composite. The Egyptian market took a very strong negative reading, roughly 3%, a massive sell down on the Cairo stock market, down to 16,814 from 17,000 level, where we finished off on Thursday last week. The Nairobi stock market also down by 0.75%, while the GSE fell roughly 1.2% in line with the rest of the emerging markets, below the 80,000 level, where it crossed sometime around Thursday last week. So that's it on the market side. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines, starting from today. Safaricom Ethiopia will be paying roughly 19 billion shillings to the authorities. That's what the new regulation is saying, for Safaricom to be able to float its iconic brand, MPesa, and products in the Ethiopian market. That's what the authorities will be demanding from Safaricom Ethiopia, which is now licensed to do business and currently taking a chunk of the market share in Ethiopia, but will have to pay to onboard MPesa from Kenya into Ethiopia, one of the largest and most populated economy on the African continent outside Nigeria and DR Congo. Then Kenya is looking at a Eurobond offering with a different terms to woo investors and help President Ruto's administration balance its bond maturity, which is about $2 billion US. Kenya is looking to avoid a default that happened to Ghana this year and Zambia last year. The DR Congo sold treasury bonds late last week. That auction fetched about $32 million US for the government in Kinshasa. And the Federation of Insurance Companies across Africa yesterday started a 3-day conference in Kinshasa, DRC, and the chairman of the federation is asking for, if it's possible, compulsory insurance for every African, roughly 900 million people on the African continent. And that's the headline message out of DR Congo, where the annual meeting is taking place. In the meantime, cyclone is bearing there, as I said earlier, on Madagascar and Mauritius, who gets you to know when the markets will be reopening in Port Noah, that's in Mauritius. And everyone, please do stay safe there for the cyclone. Let's move on quickly to West Africa, where Nigeria's Statistics Office is have quite a whole lot on its calendar to release in terms of economic data. The fourth quarter last year, GDP by production, by output data, we're expecting that this week, as well as selected food items, including oil and gas and energy products. All of that, we're expecting those numbers for last quarter of last year and the month of January 2022. A whole lot of backward-looking data we're expecting from the Statistics Office, just as everyone seemed to focus a whole lot more on the naira scarcity, as well as the elections just coming through in the next 4 days. And Tony Elumulu's foundation is setting a new target. It's building a new coalition of global CSOs, philanthropies, to support it. The initial investment in Africa Entrepreneurship by Tony Elumulu Foundation back in 2010 was $100 million. Tony Elumulu told me yesterday in an interview that is almost exhausted. They've been able to intervene 1.5 million folks. They've supported about 400,000 jobs have been created. Now he wants that to get bigger. So he's asking for partnership that across the world to support more entrepreneurship on the African continent. That was the message of what the foundation under Tony Elumulu, the billionaire businessman and banker, will be unveiling in the next couple of days. We just got a curtain raiser via a Zoom webinar he held yesterday with hundreds of participants from around the continent and around the world. And Bolt is planning about $530 million investment across the African continent, while the treasury bills done by the Ghana's treasury towards the end of last week was overbought by 1.05 billion cedis because the government is still putting a high stop rate on that. And that sounds mouth-watering for domestic and foreign investors. Benin Republic is shopping for about 150 billion CFA franc on the West African Monetary Union financial markets. And that's part of the auction that the Treasury in Benin is currently conducting. In Southern Africa, all eyes on tomorrow's budget speech by the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, and everybody's keeping one permanent eye on the 420 billion rand debts that hanging around the neck of Eskom and the whole load shedding. 60,000 megawatts is what Eskom announced just a few days ago. So we're going to listen in tomorrow evening, and we're going to get you details of that from the Finance Minister on what's the road ahead. Amplats, one of the biggest global mining company in South Africa, says it's cutting its dividend again by 62% because of the rolling blackouts from Eskom. That's impacting its profit. COMESA, which is a common market for East and Southern Africa, is considering a merger deal that's been talked about, rumored about, between Kenya Airways and South Africa Airways, two iconic airlines, commercial airlines on the African continent, but really, really troubled. And Daniel, former Group Chief Financial Officer Ms. Legrand, will be joining Signia as the new Financial Director, effective the month of April. We say congratulations to her. And good news, Zimbabwe's Finance Minister, Ntuli Dube, is considering the country setting up a new offshore financial center at the resource city of Victoria Falls. The whole idea is to ride on the back of the success that the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange is having right now, with more listings onboarding on this dollar-denominated stock exchange. So the authorities are keeping one eye. Perhaps that city, Victoria Falls, is where everyone is heading, and trying to put a financial center there to grab investment from outside the country into Zimbabwe. That is idea still in the works. We'll get details in the days, weeks, and months ahead. Let's sum it up for you in North Africa, checking through a couple of news from across the northern corridor. Algeria says it's donating $1 billion to finance development projects across the African continent. And we say, thank you. We can use every dollar or every other currency on the African continent that's on the table. In the meantime, the World Bank says Morocco's economic growth is expected to top about 3.1% this year, while tomatoes export to the UK by Morocco is now being restricted to control prices, and that is the news. So it's a tomato story between Morocco in North Africa and just the United Kingdom. And finally, Egyptian firms and the government of Uzbekistan have signed 7 memorandum of understandings across 5 key sectors in Egypt. That's the biggest economy north of the sub-Saharan Africa that Egypt really is. And that sums it up for us today on Frontier Opening Bell. I am Bosin Omofaye. We thank you for watching the show. You can go online and watch this show again, as well as other shows that we produce. You can follow us on all our social media or go to our website, frontierafricareports.com. You'll be glad you did.